This story goes out especially to the voters of Milwaukee County. You people have a decision to make. And the decision that you have to make is, in 2018, are you finally going to wake up and realize that you have been electing the wrong man for sheriff for the past two election cycles? Sheriff David Clarke Jr. is not a man that I would vote for. And there are several reasons why. Number one, this man has decided that Milwaukee County is too small of a playpen for him, and now he has expanded his sights on a national position. But a lot of politicians do that, but Mr. Clarke was not elected as a politician. He was elected as the sheriff of Milwaukee County, which is an everyday job in the county of Milwaukee. Now, I make no illusions about my dislike of this man and of the opinions that he professes. But here is another example of Sheriff David Clarke believing that his shit doesn't stink. Your sheriff, David Clarke, detained a man for looking at him the wrong way on an airplane. Now check this out. Milwaukee County Sheriff David Clarke had a man detained for looking at him the wrong way on an airplane Sunday, or for mocking him over a football game, or, if you believe the sheriff, for making a threat on his life. Next time he or anyone else pulls this stunt on a plane, they may get knocked out, the sheriff said in a statement. I do not have to wait for some goof to assault me. Translation, I can assault him first. Either way, Dan Black, 24, has filed an internal affairs complaint against the sheriff. Black said the incident took place as he boarded a plane in Dallas to Milwaukee and spotted the sheriff sitting in first class, decked out in Dallas Cowboy attire, according to WISN. Now, right then and there, this guy lives in Wisconsin and he's not a Green Bay fan. Well, okay, you know, people root for the team that they root for. But it seems a little strange, I'll say. But then again, I can't really talk because up until this year, I hated the Dallas Cowboys and I live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. But this year, I finally changed, okay? I'm a Giant fan. Anyway, law enforcement sources told the news station that they were told to detain Black because he had mocked the sheriff. I didn't know mocking someone was against the law. The Cowboys had just lost the playoff game Sunday against the Green Bay Packers, and Black was surprised that the Wisconsin sheriff was a Cowboy fan. Well, that's you know, not unreasonable. So Black asked the sheriff if he was the famous David Clarke. Sheriff Clarke responded with a yes. Black, apparently frustrated that a Milwaukee resident was cheering for the Cowboys instead of the local Packers, shook his head in disapproval as he walked past the sheriff on the plane. So he was done with it. He was heading back to his seat in commercial class. He also said he was not a fan of the sheriff anyway, who made headlines as one of the few Black Americans that spoke at the 2016 Republican National Convention in support of Donald Trump. Now, that is what it is. Black continued walking down the aisle to his seat in commercial class when the sheriff asked, so that means the sheriff had to have gotten up out of his seat and followed this guy down the aisle The sheriff asked, "Is there a problem?" Well, apparently if the guy kept walking, there wasn't a problem. He kept walking. So apparently the guy shaking his head must have been a problem for Sheriff Clarke. Anyway, Mr. Black said no, shook his head, and continued to walk away. But the sheriff now was infuriated that someone had the audacity to shake their head at him. So he had his deputies meet Black at the terminal after the plane landed in Milwaukee. When Black stepped off the plane, he was met by Sheriff Clarke and 6 sheriff deputies with police dogs. What the hell were the police dogs doing in there? The guy had come through a screening in Dallas, and trust me, they don't mess around with drugs down here in Dallas, especially at the airport. The deputies detained Black and ordered him to a private security room in the airport where they questioned him. I come out and there were about 6 cops, Sheriff Clarke, and 2 dogs all standing there staring at me, Black told WISN. Some of the cops came up to me and I immediately know, here we go. The whole thing was so bizarre, I couldn't believe it at first. They asked who I am, what I was doing in Dallas, what are my views on Sheriff Clarke. Okay, and why did they have to ask all those questions? They didn't have any lawful reason to stop this man. They did not have any suspicion that he had committed a crime or that he was about to commit a crime. So the stop and detention was illegal. The deputies were told that Black had made offensive remarks to Sheriff Clarke, although they never gave clarification on what the actual remarks were. I guess it was offensive to ask Clarke if he was the famous Sheriff David Clarke. I guess that must have been offensive, because apparently that's the only thing that was actually verbalized other than Mr. Black being asked if he had a problem and saying no. As far as the story goes, that was the only conversation between the 2 people. According to Black, even the deputies admitted that the detention was stupid and ridiculous. After realizing that Black did not violate any laws, the deputies escorted Black to his waiting ride after detaining him for 15 minutes. Black believes he was a victim of Sheriff Clarke's abuse of power. He's absolutely right. I will say it again. They had no reason to detain this man. None. 0. But because Mr. Clarke got pissed off about somebody having the audacity to disagree with him being a Cowboy fan, that was enough probable cause to grab and detain this guy. Look, people, this guy is an idiot, okay? And you have 2 choices here. One, you can pray that Donald Trump decides to make him Assistant Homeland Secretary, Secretary for Homeland Security. Or 2, and you're gonna have to wait 2 years for this one, that you actually vote this guy out. Now, you have enough right now based on the fact that there is a federal investigation on a cover-up he did for one of his deputies where he persecuted a victim of one of his deputies driving erratically and causing an accident. And if you didn't know about that one, that was where a woman was driving late at night, a deputy was driving a police car, no lights flashing, and ran a stop sign and broadsided her. They turned around and blamed the woman for the accident, claiming that she must have been intoxicated. They take her to the hospital because she was severely injured. Obviously, they did blood tests on her. She turned up 0, okay? They pulled the footage because this occurred near the Milwaukee airport. They pulled available footage. They saw what happened. Did they drop the charges against the lady for DUI and I guess reckless driving or whatever? No, they prosecuted this woman for 6 months until the DA finally, after the lady had obtained an attorney and threatened a lawsuit, dropped the charges. So now that the lawsuit is for civil damages and obviously against Mr. Clarke for doing a cover-up. Meanwhile, the deputy, after he returned to duty, quote unquote, had some issues and he is off with pay, and this occurred, I believe it was at least 1, if not 2 years ago. So this guy is on the books getting paid unless he's resigned, and you citizens did pay at least a year of his salary, if not 2. The other situation with Mr. Clarke and his lack of management skills has to do with the 4 deaths that occurred in his jail, and he still refuses to talk to the press regarding this or answer any questions whatsoever. You have more than enough with those 2 incidents and the fact that this guy is never there doing his day job in order to vote this clown out of office. People of Milwaukee County, I know you guys are the salt of the earth. I know you guys normally try to do the right thing. The right thing here is to get rid of Sheriff David Clarke Jr.